All right, and this evening I'm going to be talking with Rylend Grant. He may the name may sound familiar. I've interviewed him before for his books through Action Lab, ABBERANT and BANJAX, and he has a new Kickstarter. And I thought it'd be a great time to bring him back in and find out about his new project. So let me just go ahead and bring him in, and we'll find a little bit more about the jump. Hey, how's it going?
How you doing, man? Good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Well, nice to finally kind of meet you in person.
Yeah. I feel like we've known each other for a long time. Face to a name and
But
all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, but like I was saying, the first time we talked was about a year ago when you were launching BANJAX from Action Lab, and that turned out well for you.
Yeah, it did pretty well. For the uninitiated, Banjax is a dark superhero noir kind of Death Wish with a superhero. Um, Out in fine comic shops everywhere now, the trade, and available for download via Comixology and Amazon and all that stuff. But yeah, it made about a dozen critics 10 best lists last year, and then got a pretty good Ringo Awards push this year. So we'll see how the nominations shake out. They don't announce those for another couple of months, but here's hoping.
And didn't you win a award already for was it for
Aberrant? Yeah, my first book through Action Lab, was Aberrant, which is kind of a love letter to 70s paranoid spy thrillers. So yeah, that was released about 2 years back now via Action Lab Danger Zone, and then so that went for 10 issues, and then last year it won the Ringo Award for Best Villain, which was a pretty cool ride. And then it was nominated for two others. It was nominated for Best Single Issue, and then I was nominated for Best Writer alongside like just this murderer's row. It was like Scott Snyder and Brian K. Vaughan and Bendis and Jeff Lemire. So it was like me and four first ballot Hall of Famers, basically.
A bunch of they're up and coming writers.
Yeah. No, it was funny. It was funny being at the award show because these people would kind of corner me and they'd be like, "So you're the weird one, right? You're the outlier. I need to beat you." So that was a lot of fun. But it was cool kind of being at the award show with those guys, and big surprise to actually bring one home. Yeah.
So I know when I went to when it was still the Hard Awards, I sat at the table I was sitting at was with Ryan Brown, and he was up against Chip Zdarsky for for one of the awards, and he was like, "Yeah, Chip's going to win."
Yeah.
As he was texting with him at the same time.
Yeah, I mean that was that was my I flew out to Baltimore for it and everything. They had me as the Ringo Awards take place at the Ringo Awards, again, for the uninitiated, kind of like the Golden Globes of comic book awards. If the Eisners are the Oscars, I guess. And so they're held at the Baltimore Comic Con every year in October. And so I flew out last year for them. Guest of the con, had my own table, that whole 9 yards. So it was going to be a great experience and more of a networking thing. But I had, I told everybody that I'm obviously not winning one of these. I mean, I was just up against a bunch of heavyweights. But somehow the villain thing came through. So.
So I know we talked about it before, but how did do you telling us how you kind of got into comics and what inspired you to start writing?
Yeah, well, I have for about 15 years now written in Hollywood. Been a working screenwriter. I've written for Ridley Scott and J.J. Abrams and John Woo and Luc Besson and F. Gary Gray and Justin Lin, and it's mostly kind of big poppy action movies. Comics, were always my first love, and so about 4 years ago now, I kind of swerved in the comic book lane and did Aberrant. Kind of haven't looked back since. And those two careers have kind of they have melded in an interesting way, because the name of the game in Hollywood now is IP, intellectual property. Like we're in this age where it's very hard to sell an original idea, an original spec script or a pitch or something like that, and everything needs to be based on something, whether it's a book or a short story or a video game or a comic book. And so I would say 7 or 8 years ago, my business in Hollywood really became IP driven. I mean, in the beginning, I sold a lot of spec scripts, and then the writer strike happened right around the time that the financial crisis happened, and Hollywood kind of used that as an excuse to kind of completely remake the way they do business. And so then original ideas became very hard to sell. I had a couple of lean years, and finally I kind of wised up, and I'm like, you know what, if they want IP, let me give them IP. And so took an idea that I had for a while that I knew I couldn't sell as a spec or a pitch, and I wrote it as a short story. Got that published, and then kind of overnight we had a bidding war on it. We had Justin Lin on one side coming off Fast 6. That was like the largest summer opening in Universal history or something. And then we had Brett Ratner and Robert De Niro on the other side kind of buying for this thing. And so sold that, to kind of big fanfare. And then my reps kind of thought it was a fluke, and, I was pretty certain it wasn't a fluke. And so short and sweet, we did it with short stories probably 6 more times. And, now we're kind of doing it with comic books too. And so Aberrant was optioned for television, I think 2 weeks before the second issue hit stands, hit comic shops. So that is being developed for TV by Tony Krantz, who produced 24 and Felicity, and produced Mulholland Drive for David Lynch, and is doing Wu Assassins at Netflix now. And so yeah, it's like these these two kind of careers have kind of slammed into one another, and so one kind of feeds the other. And so it's worked out well, I think.
And so now you have you're doing you have a Kickstarter for the Jump. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what the Jump's about, and how? I assume it probably would have been for Action Lab Danger Zone originally, or?
Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, Action Lab's been great to me, and I'll most certainly do another book with them. No, the Jump was God. I mean, let me. I'm going to try not to make this a marathon story, but so in the wake of the Reno Awards, had a lot of opportunities, and so I have probably 5 or 6 titles in the pipe now in various stages, and I had 2 that were set to be announced before the whole COVID craziness hit. And then the entire comic book industry went pencils down, and comic book shops had to close, and Diamond shut up, and all that. And a lot of people at these companies at the publishers were furloughed, and some of them ended up fired, and all that stuff. And so it has been a crazy storm these past few months. And so those 2 titles that were set to be announced, I kind of have no idea exactly what's going on with them now, if they're going to get, sort of picked back up, or if they're going to end up other places. But long-winded way of saying that I kind of had a lot of these, I had these projects kind of set to land, so the Jump was one that I hadn't shopped yet. And I have for years been flirting with the idea of Kickstarter. I probably should have done a Kickstarter 2 years ago. I've had a lot of friends who have had huge success on Kickstarter. Charlie Stickney, who did White Ash, and David Avalone, who along with Kevin Eastman did Drawing Blood, and and the list goes on. Russell Novelty, and just sort of one after another. And Kickstarter it's just such an interesting place. I mean, it's its own kind of comic world, right? It is almost an audience separate from the comic shop world. And so, you can raise a lot of money there, and the money is nice. I mean, it's like, it's what a lot of people don't understand is that there's kind of, there is a massive budget that goes into these things before you ever see them, right? And when you're doing creator-owned books, like that's usually out of pocket. Or in my case, I was going to an investor, and then I'm giving the investor a piece of the property, and then that investor has a lot of say in what happens, and that can, a lot of times it works out fine. Sometimes it becomes very problematic, and so being able to go to Kickstarter and get your budget is a huge deal. But the biggest thing for me, I found, is that there is this kind of rabid, very enthusiastic audience there, that will kind of fall in love with you, and then sort of they'll be with you forever. Charlie Stickney with White Ash, he launched his first campaign, and I think he made probably about 12 grand, and had about 300 backers the first go around. He ran his fifth campaign, a few months back, and I think he had, I don't know if it was 1,100 backers and $30,000 or something like that. It just grows every time, right? And it is so interactive. I mean, I've been releasing books in comic shops for a couple of years now, and you put a book out there, and you don't really get a ton back. I mean, of course, you got critics and write-ups, and I go to cons and I get to meet people that way, and that's great. But with Kickstarter, it is immediately interactive, right? You're from moment one, they can message you and ask you questions and suggest things, and we can talk about a little bit more, in a bit, about how I'm sort of, trying to, I don't know, make the most of that interaction. But back to the Jump, specifically, so the Jump is kind of like it's a kick, I'm calling it a kick you in the teeth paranoid thriller set in the world of astral projection. So, it's smart, high concept sci-fi thriller, a lot of twists and turns. I'm calling it Inception meets The Bourne Identity if it were dripping with macabre, and directed by David Fincher. So that's my
okay.
That's my quick pitch. I have this world of astral projection is it's interesting. We haven't really seen it before, which is why I think it's so exciting. Really interesting place to kind of set a big thriller.
So can you just kind of give us a quick summary as to some of the characters and whatever like what they're doing and what they're up against?
Yeah, well, so the protagonist is this guy Thomas, and he's basically, after like a series of personal tragedies, he's at this kind of low point in his life, and he sort of finds he finds a home, he finds comfort in this community of online astral projectors, which actually exists. I mean, that's where the story comes from. So this is kind of an artist-initiated thing. The artist Fabio Alves is the artist who did BANJAX, great Brazilian artist. And so you have an artist like that on the line, you want to keep them working, and so we were trying to figure out what the next thing that we do is. You can, I have 100 ideas that I want to do, and so I could have went to Fabio and said, "Hey, draw this," and he would have been happy with it. But I think the best thing you can do for an artist, and the best thing you can do for yourself a lot of the time, is to go to the artist and say, like, "Hey, man, what do you want to draw?" And usually when you ask an artist a question like that, they'll hem and haw. They're like, "Yeah, give me a couple of days, we'll figure it out," and they come back with something very general. When I asked Fabio that question, I didn't even finish the sentence, and he was like, "This," and he just had this idea for. And it was more of a world. I mean, so Fabio is part of this online community of astral projectors that exist on YouTube and and message boards and stuff like that. And they are rabid. And he has a teacher, and his teacher has a teacher, and he is very active in this community. And so he introduced me to the community and introduced me to a lot of people who are kind of in the know. And I had a lot of kind of great sort of, I don't know, guides into this world. And so yeah, our protagonist Thomas gets sort of brought into this world, kind of like I did. But he demonstrates a unique affinity for the practice, right? Abilities that others don't have. And when he does that, there is a group called AJAX that decides that they're going to sort of use and exploit him. That they may be able to kind of put him into play as a soldier in this sort of centuries old, war that's going on in the astral plane. So it's that sort of thing. It stays very grounded, I mean, again, this is kind of a paranoid thriller. It's almost like a Michael Clayton in an astral projection world, so it doesn't get too crazy.
Yep.
It doesn't get too crazy or kooky, but I mean, there's a lot that can be done here. Like the possibilities are kind of endless.
So, were you surprised? I mean, I was, when I found, the project just the other day, you'd already, met the goal for the project, and you were well on through your to the stretch goals.
Stretch goals. Yeah.
Were you kind of surprised at the how it's performed on Kickstarter?
Yeah, totally. I mean, just to tell you the truth, I had no idea what to expect. I mean, I had a lot of people that had been around the block before, and so they could tell me kind of roughly, like, you can expect this or you can expect that. I was still very conservative in the goal that I set. I think we set a $7,000 goal, and we're just about to crack 13,000. And so I figure, we have 4 days to go, and the last 2 days end up kind of being a flurry. So I figure we'll probably finish just over about 15. So over double our goals. So yeah, I mean, I was surprised and astonished. And excited, quite frankly. I mean, it's and again, it's like I mean, the money is great and the money helps. But again, we'll finish north of 300 backers, and that'll grow the next time we do one. But again, it's like it's the interactiveness, it's the enthusiasm that you kind of that you encounter immediately that was really kind of that really kind of made the whole thing worthwhile and exciting.
What?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, sorry.
No,
go ahead. I was just going to ask you what rewards level, what the rewards level were, and what the current stretch goals that have been unlocked are.
Yeah. So the let me bring this up, and then I can kind of go through the rewards here more easily. Yeah. So the stretch goals, as you said, we're through two stretch goals already, and so the first was interesting. So you right off the bat, anybody who pledges gets kind of the Rylend Grant starter pack. So obviously, you pledge at any level, and you're getting some version of the Jump #1. But this is my first time on Kickstarter. As I said, you kind of have like a separate audience here, and so I'm trying to sort of introduce the Kickstarter world to my books. And so right off the bat, everybody who pledges gets BANJAX #1. And then they get ABBERANT #1. So you get issue #1 of all 3 of my series. Good way to introduce me. So right off the bat, you're getting 3 issues for 1 pledge. But then our first stretch goal was our what am I calling it? Our bonus digital extravaganza. So once we kind of made our goal 7,000, that triggered that, and so everybody who pledges now gets 12 additional issues from kind of some of the hottest creators in comics, so you kind of get 15 issues for 1 pledge, and then and then the stretch goal #2 was a print, so everybody's getting a print, and stretch goal #3, which is going to trigger at $13,000, and we're probably going to announce it tomorrow, and I guess I can just go ahead and talk about it. We've partnered with a website called Pop Cult HQ, which is just a really good pop culture site and comic book review site, and they have managed. We have 10 signed graphic novels, from Image and Dark Horse and the whole 9 yards. And so so those are kind of getting thrown into the pot now. So 10 kind of 10 random backers will also receive a kind of top-notch autographed graphic novel too. So plenty to read. Yeah, you're going to be reading for months on this. But
so,
then go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, if you have other questions, that's cool. Otherwise I can go through some more of the.
No, keep going. I thought I had a question, but no, you can keep going through the through what you were going through. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So, no worries. So there's plenty of stuff for for process junkies there. I mean, when I was kind of, I mean, a lot of people who back these things are people who are kind of would be comic creators themselves. Sort of trying to kind of learn the art and trying to figure out how to break things down. And I was that person 5 years ago, so I understand that. And so I was thinking, sort of trying to look at this thing through that lens. And so. Most everybody gets the script for the Jump, which is kind of a really interesting study. You get the publisher pitch document, and then we have basically the Process Junkie's Dream, which is like we call it the digital deluxe, the artist edition. And so you get to see how the book is built from start to finish. So you have the script, but then you get all of the artists' layouts, all the pencils, all the inks, all the colored files, and then of course with the final product, you have all the lettered versions. And so you just get to see the book, how the book is built from start to finish. And again, when I was trying to figure out how to do this 5 years ago, that was kind of revelatory for me. So hopefully, there are plenty of people out there, to whom that's an interesting study. So we have a lot of original art tiers. We have kind of A5 format, 6x8 inch original, sort of hand drawn, hand inked drawings of characters from the Jump from Fabio. That's pretty interesting. And then we get into kind of the interactive portions of of these tiers that I was talking about. Again, like if you're just trying to sell a book, that's one thing. But again, the community is just so vibrant and so interactive and so excited. So I was trying to find any and every way to kind of include them and sort of personalize them. And so that's kind of where this starts. And so the first thing is that, Fabio and Edson, our colorists, they're doing original commissions. And so, basically anything goes, anything you want drawn, if you want, whatever you want a superhero pinup, that's fine. But if you want, you want to picture your best friend, making love to a dog, that's fine too. Again, anything goes. And so we have the black and white pencil and inked commission, but then we have the full color commissions too, depending on where you're at. And then we have the put me on a cover tier. So if you know Aberrant and BANJAX, you know that we are kind of known for our. I'm trying to see if I can find one here. That's why I'm looking off, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to. We are known for our variant covers. And so with Action Lab, they make you do variant covers. Variant covers are big with collectors, and I don't do anything straightforward. And so if I was going to do them, I was going to have fun with them. And so with Aberrant, Aberrant's a pretty serious book. I mean, I guess it has. You can actually see one on the back here, but here's here's one of our characters eating lunch with his elf lunchbox. That's one of the tamer ones. But we did a couple of Karate Kid variants. We did a Top Gun playing with the boys variant. We did a Point Break, like bank robbery variant. We did a Coming to America Zamunda variant. And then with BANJAX, we did a Gremlins variant. We did a Rocky IV variant. We have a lot of fun. So, if you go on Kickstarter and you search the Jump, we had some fun this go round. We have a Ghostbusters Stay Puft Marshmallow Man variant, And then we have an Ice Cube Today Was a Good Day video tribute variant, with our main character kind of sitting on the hood of that beautiful green Impala that he drives through the video, and with probably about a dozen references to the video. And so we have a put me on the cover tier here where you can choose your cover, and we will put your face on our character on the cover. So if you want to be Ice Cube in the Today Was a Good Day video, we'll put your head right on there. If you want to be the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, tearing up New York City, then you are more than welcome. And so had a lot of fun with that stuff. And then that segues pretty nicely into the Draw Me In tiers. And so you can actually appear in the book, right? And in the printed version of the book. And so there's kind of the cameo tier where you're kind of a prominent person in the background, but then there's the supporting character tier also, where you actually have lines. You're actually right in the middle of the scene. The book opens. I'm not giving anything away here because there's like a 10 or 12 page preview on the Kickstarter page. And the book opens with a woman kind of committing suicide in the car, and the driver is trying to stop her, and so you could be the driver shouting at her, don't. And so people have had a lot of fun with that stuff. I want to be in the book. I want my wife in the book. I want my friend in the book. And then we went further than that. So kind of one of the coolest tiers is that we're doing two of these. You can have an original story starring you that takes place in the Jump world, the Jump universe. And so
cool.
It'll be a 5-page story. Maybe a little more depending on how the story shakes out. But you'll immediately get a digital version, and then it will appear physically in the second issue of the Jump, which will be kickstarted early next year. So that one was funny because day one, maybe one of our first 5 backers bought one of these original story things, and then very quickly after, we had 2 people purchase the supporting character tiers. And when that happened, I assumed that they wanted to be in the normal book, the regular book, right? But no, these guys were friends of the person who had purchased the original story tier, and with their supporting character tier, they wanted to appear in his story. and so good. You talk about like an enthusiastic audience and them being so interactive, and them finding kind of new ways to sort of improve the experience, and they just did that on their own. I thought it was clever, and I thought it was awesome, and I thought it was really exciting. And so we're offering some other things, one-on-one Skype sessions with me, where you can just kind of pick my brain if you want to. You want to talk about the film business, the comic business, getting your first comic published, all that stuff. And then, as I said, a lot of my IP ends up getting developed for television and movies, and so we have some producer tiers too. So if you you're looking to kind of break into the film business, and you want a couple of credits under your belt, we've done this from the very beginning. If you look at Aberrant, I don't know if you can see this, but so you have. Not doing it right. Okay, so writer, artist, colorist, letterer, and then there is our executive producer. And so you will be a producer on the book, on the property, and so you will have your name and lights right next to the creative team. Again, this is in the Aberrant trade that is in stores and everything. And so you'll appear in lights, and then when the thing gets gets turned into a movie or a TV show, you'll have the same credit on a movie or on a TV series. And so, a lot of people interested in those tiers and, engaging on that. So, we're looking for team members, and we're looking to kind of build this thing out. So, anybody who's interested in that,
cool.
Take a look.
So, is most of it already written and done? Is it, how long, what do you expect your turnaround to be for once the Kickstarter ends?
Yeah, well, so much can happen with a Kickstarter that I would never launch one without the book being completely done. There are people that do it, and you
Hmm.
hear these horror stories about delays and all that stuff, and I would just never put myself or a backer in that position. So the jump was 100% done before we launched. So it's ready. I mean, it's basically just ready to be printed. I mean, with the caveat that
Okay.
now that we have to actually draw backers into the books, that's basically all we have left to do. And so, we have to draw these cameos in, which just requires some some minor modifications basically, and then it goes right to print. And so we've given ourselves a cushion in terms of what the official timeline is, but the official timeline says you'll have your books in your hand, sometime in September. But most likely it'll be much sooner than that, and that's what we're aiming for. So,
Yeah. Cool.
cool.
So is there anything that you've been? I know that not a lot of stuff out, but is there anything that you kind of caught up on or reread during the time when new stuff wasn't coming out that you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I go back to my friends.
Yeah.
I mentioned them once or twice here. Charlie Stickney did a really great book called White Ash, which is kind of a really grounded fit of fantasy. It's kind of a mining town, that's kind of set in our world, very grounded, but then there's this kind of other very magical, very interesting stuff going on. Intrigue ensues. I don't want to give too much away, but it's the art is beautiful on it. Connor Hughes is the artist, and he's really great. But that was one that started on Kickstarter, and then Scout Comics is giving it a proper release now, and it was delayed a little bit because of the plague we are currently experiencing. But
Yeah.
I think issue 2 or issue 3 just dropped this past week. So that's going strong. And it's just a
Okay.
great book. It's just it's really great. And then if you haven't checked out Drawing Blood by Avalone and Eastman, it's really awesome. So Kevin Eastman, obviously one of the creators of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and so this is a fictionalized telling of kind of the creation of a Ninja Turtles like property. It's a guy who, autobiographical in a lot of ways, but also like, it goes off the rails. It's like the guy's kind of crazy, and his characters start appearing and talking to him, and he's indebted to the Albanian mafia, and I mean, but it's big and it's bad. I mean, Avallone's been writing for years. I mean, he's one of Dynamite's go-to guys, and has written, Elvira, and Betty Page for years, and probably has another dozen credits under his belt over there. Did some, Twilight Zone book, and so he's just a great kind of pulpy writer. And then everybody knows and loves Kevin Eastman. And then that was another one that started out on Kickstarter. And then they put it in comic shops themselves. I mean, Kevin Eastman Studios, and it's just great. It's just got a lot of heart, and it's really funny. It's a you laugh, you cry sort of thing. That's great. And then I'm excited for some things to come out. My friend Sean Lewis, who has done a number of great books at Image. He did The Few, and he did Thumbs most recently. That was kind of a big hit for them.
He definitely great little series.
Yeah, and Coyotes was another one that was kind of a big hit over at Image, and so he and the Coyotes artist Caitlin Yarsky, they have another book coming out called Bliss, which is kind of a futuristic sci-fi take on addiction, seemingly, and the art will just like make your face melt, just so good. Yarsky is just incredible. And so, yeah, I'm excited for that to drop. That I think the FOC is this week. So if you're watching this,
Cool.
every comic shop you want.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to mention about the Kickstarter that I may have not covered? Or
Well, I mean,
I know
you know,
you're not. I don't want to say anything to jinx you, but
yeah, yeah. I mean, we're doing well, but you know, but again, this is you know, this is about kind of building a fan base and you know, building an enterprise here, and so yeah, we you know, obviously like people you know, on the train from the beginning. So the Jump closes on Kickstarter Thursday the 2nd, July 2nd. You know, depending on when you're watching this at about 8 p.m. So you have a little over 4 days now to make the jump with us. So yeah, I mean it's a damn good book.
Well,
I'm proud
I'll
of it.
definitely try to have it up by tomorrow.
Cool. Yeah. So I mean the art is bonkers. It's a you know it's a kind of dark, crazy, imaginative ride. I think you're gonna have a lot of fun with it, and you know, a lot of interesting ways to kind of you know get involved with it and to you know kind of appreciate the experience. And if you you know if you log on to the Kickstarter page and we're missing something, let us know because I'll add it or I'll add it next time. So yeah.
Well, I'll add the link in the show notes, and I would suggest that if anybody's watching this, that they definitely check it out, as BANJAX and ABBERANT have been really great.
Well, thanks, man.
And well, if you know whenever you have anything else and you'd like to, you know, come back on and talk about it, then be glad to have you. And stay safe, stay healthy. I don't think you're going to be going to very many cons.
No, they're all canceled, thankfully, unless you live in Florida. But yeah, don't get me started on that. But yeah, it's you know it's sad because you know you kind of develop a con family and there's so much fun to go to, and you know you kind of you meet for 3 days, you kind of have a you know party and and kinship, and yeah, I'm missing that. I mean, we're trying to kind of keep it alive online, but it's not the same. So
yeah. Oh. Hopefully, maybe next year, if it's safe to go to cons, then maybe I will catch you at one of them, and we can meet in person.
Excellent. Yeah, that would be that sounds great. And yeah, so you can you know I will probably not meet anyone watching this at a con in a long in a while, but find me on social media. I'm at Rylend Grant.
Yeah.
You can see it right there. On all platforms, and yeah, you got questions about getting your first comic published or anything like that. I do a lot of how-to panels at cons, so a lot of people hit me up, and yeah, so hit me with your questions, and check out ABBERANT and BANJAX and the Jump.
All right. Well, thank you again for taking the time, and I'll be in touch, and I'll let you know when this goes up.
Excellent. Thanks a ton for the opportunity, man. Good to meet you.
All right. Yep. Have a good evening.
Back at you.